Last week, I had a debate, at least I think it was a debate, with Governor Palin. And last night, Barack had his second debate with John McCain. Now, I realize I'm slightly prejudiced about our ticket, but if this was the best of 5 series, it'd be over. It'd be done. Well, folks, speaking of Obama, again, in the debate last night, what was most notable to me was what you didn't hear, what you couldn't hear. On the middle class, John McCain's silence was deafening once again. You didn't hear John mention the words middle class one single time again after the second debate. And more importantly, the questions from the people of that town hall last night, I personally believe, reflected what a majority of the American people are looking for. A steady hand, leadership, an optimist, not an angry man lurching from one position to another. They're looking for answers. The American people are looking for answers. How to deal with the jobs that are being lost in this economy, their jobs, the lack of affordable health care that affects their kids, their husbands, wives. Ladies and gentlemen, the retirement security they see literally vanishing before their very eyes. And maybe equally as important, in my view, how and when to use our power abroad. What was at the same time remarkable as well as reassuring is what you didn't hear from those folks. You didn't hear a single question about the ugly inferences and the unbecoming personal attacks launched by the McCain campaign on Barack Obama. You didn't hear one single average person ask that. Barack Obama showed again last night that he understands. He understands that these debates aren't about Governor Palin and me. They aren't about Barack Obama and John McCain. These debates, this election, is about you, not us. This election. This election, in the words of the folks I grew up in my neighborhood, is literally about dignity and respect. The respect American people deserve. It's simply, if you got to cut it all aside, cut through everything. From our perspective, it's about fairness. It's about how to reclaim, and I mean this sincerely. I'm not looking for an applause line here. I mean this seriously because this is what it's about. It's about dignity, respect, fairness. It's simply about how to reclaim the greatness of this country. And it's that basic. Ladies and gentlemen, John McCain's campaign has reached a very difficult place. And I'm being serious here. It's a difficult place. If they wanted to be intellectually honest, they really only have 3 choices. 1, and I mean this literally, 1, they can deny that we're in trouble and say that things are pretty good, we just need a little fine-tuning. That's one intellectually honest position they could argue from their perspective. 2, they could explain why the policies of the last 8 years, why they aren't a problem, why is some other reason that's caused us to get in this god-awful deep hole we've been dug into both at home and abroad. Or thirdly, they can be intellectually honest and acknowledge that the economic situation that we face today is the final verdict of a failed economic philosophy. And it needs a wholesale change, total change. In my view, they're the only three intellectually honest options that can be chosen. But there's one other option. There's one other option. The one they have chosen is to appeal to fear with the veiled question, who is the real Barack Obama? Ladies and gentlemen, to have a vice presidential candidate raise the most outrageous inferences, the ones that John McCain's campaign is condoning, is simply wrong. They went out, the McCain campaign went out and hired some of the very political manipulators in the Republican primary who in 2000 led those vicious attacks against John's daughters and John's lovely wife. They hired those people to come on board. And now these same people, they're attacking Barack Obama in the ugliest of ways. Ladies and gentlemen, this is beyond disappointing. This is beyond disappointing. This is wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, some of you may remember that back in the beginning of September, John McCain's campaign manager said, and I quote, "This election is not about issues." On Monday, this past Monday, one of John McCain's top strategists told the New York Daily News, and I quote, "If we keep talking about the economic crisis, we're going to lose." End of quote. Another strategist, another McCain strategist told the Washington Post, quote, "We're looking forward to turning the page on this financial crisis." And ladies and gentlemen, he didn't mean in solving the crisis. He meant in ignoring it and attacking Barack Obama instead. That's what this campaign's been about. Well, ladies and gentlemen, most Americans don't have the luxury of ignoring the economy, ignoring the cost of gas, ignoring the cost of groceries, the cost of tuition, health care, and whether or not they can pay their mortgages. We don't think you can turn the page until we have a leader with ideas that will write a better ending to the story than the one we're being written now. When those guys start saying the things I just read to you, you know they're going to try to take the low road to the highest office in the land. And that's exactly what they're doing. A recent analysis showed that 100% of the advertisement that John McCain is now running are advertisements attacking Barack Obama. 100%. Well, folks, I guess when you vote with George W. Bush 90% of the time, your best hope is to attack your opponent 100% of the time. Folks, don't be distracted. Those attacks don't hurt Barack Obama or me. They hurt you. Every single false charge and baseless accusation is an attempt to get you to stop paying attention to what's going on in this country. Beyond the attacks, what is John McCain really offering? What about the past 8 years? Think of this question and ask your Republican friends. Many of them are voting for Barack already, but ask your friends who are still for John. Ask them this question, literally. What about the past 8 years would John McCain change in the next 4 years? You got it. Nothing. Nothing consequential. You can't change the next 4 years. If you stood with George Bush in calling for Social Security to be privatized, you can't change the next 4 years if you stood with George Bush when he blocked efforts to provide health care for an additional 3.8 million children. You can't change the next 4 years if you'd simply continued George Bush's shoot first and ask questions later foreign policy. We will end this war. We will end this war. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't change. You can't change our approach to global warming if you think, as my opponent said, you're not quite sure of the cause. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't change the lives of the middle class when on the issues that matter most to them, sending their kids to college, paying for health care, filling the gas tank, paying the mortgage. There is no difference, none, between what would be done by John McCain and what has already been done by George Bush. Look, to paraphrase a good friend of mine, Senator Bob Casey from my hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, he says, you can't call yourself a maverick when all you've ever been is a sidekick. That's why, folks, that's why you're seeing John McCain's campaign become so erratic, relying on political stunts instead of offering real solutions. Look at how John McCain responded to the current economic crisis. At 9 a.m., this is literal, on 9 a.m. on September the 15th, when everything was crashing, John McCain said, quote, "The fundamentals of the economy are strong." At 11 a.m. the same day, he said that we're in a great economic crisis. Now that's what we Catholics call an epiphany. Ladies and gentlemen, presidents have to instill confidence in order to be able to lead both at home and abroad. They must provide steady leadership in times of challenge, not lurching from one side to the other in a matter of hours. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not what great presidents do. In those 2 hours, did John McCain realize the average income of American families had already dropped $2,000 over the previous 7.5 years? I don't think so. Did he realize that our economy has lost jobs for 9 straight months, more than 750,000 jobs this year? And more than 115,000 lost jobs right here in Florida? I don't think so. Or that the premiums people pay for the health care has doubled over the last 8 years? I don't think so. Did he realize that this economic crisis is the final verdict on a failed economic philosophy of cutting regulations, of blindfolding the overseers to let Wall Street do whatever it wants? I don't think he got it. Ladies and gentlemen, did he realize that we can't afford 4 more years of the same? I don't think so. The problem with John's epiphany is it not that he saw the light, he saw the presidency slipping from his grasp. That's what he saw. That's what he saw. Ladies and gentlemen, this financial crisis, as is pointed out to you already by Jim, has wiped out $2 trillion of people's retirement funds, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Florida is the second in the nation in home foreclosures. Barack Obama has said it's not enough just to get out of this economic crisis. We need a wholesale fundamental change in our economic philosophy, because that's what got us here, his philosophy. Ladies and gentlemen, Barack and I understand the way to rebuild this economy is to strengthen the middle class. That's why in this housing crisis, we're going to make it easier. In this housing crisis, we're going to make it easier for people to keep their homes by changing the bankruptcy laws and allowing judges not only reduce the amount of the payment, but the total amount of money owed on the mortgage. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why all of our plans, from infrastructure to energy to education to tax cuts to health care, focus on one thing: jobs, 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 jobs. It's about jobs, creating jobs, keeping jobs in America, not sending them overseas, making sure people have the skills to have great jobs, allowing you to keep your health care, through your job, through your employment. Look, here's how we're going to do that. First, we're going to give hard-pressed families a tax break. Barack and I will give real, meaningful tax cuts to 95% of all Americans who draw a paycheck. That is irrefutable. That is a fact. 95% of all the people who draw a paycheck. And why? Beyond it being fair, tax cuts will give you a little extra money, help you fill up the tank, heat or cool your home. Ladies and gentlemen, look, John McCain is proposing hundreds of billions of dollars in new tax breaks for big corporations and the wealthiest. They're already going to get this year, the wealthiest among us, $135 billion additional tax cut this year. John wants to add on top of that, literally. These facts cannot be refuted. It's his program. He wants to add on top of that another $300 billion in tax cuts. Folks, even if it was fair, where is he going to get the money? How are we going to do this? Ladies and gentlemen, his tax plan, as Barack pointed out last night, would give the Fortune 500 CEOs on average a $700,000 tax cut apiece. But his tax plan literally, not figuratively, leaves out 100 million middle-class taxpayers. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of giving more tax breaks to companies that ship jobs overseas, as John McCain proposes, we're going to take those tax breaks that they're given now, and we're going to create jobs here in the United States by keeping the companies here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to rebuild America. We're going to make an investment in the crumbling roads and schools and infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to invest $60 billion over the next 10 years, which will create 2 million new jobs, average income close to $50,000 a year. Ladies and gentlemen, right here in Florida, it's estimated that Florida would gain an additional 120,000 jobs right here in Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, thirdly, we're going to get serious about energy that's made in America, energy made in America. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end this addiction to oil, and we're going to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. It will strengthen our national security, protect our environment, and get our economy moving again by creating new high-paying jobs, 5 million new high-paying jobs. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? We're going to make a solid investment. We're going to invest $15 billion a year over the next 10 years. We're going to invest in renewable sources of energy like wind and solar, creating 5 million new jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, fourth, we're going to cut health care costs for families and businesses as well, and provide affordable, accessible health insurance for every single American. John McCain has an unusual proposal. John McCain, let me try to be completely fair about this. John McCain has proposed taxing your health care benefits, the one you get from your employers, just like they tax income. So if they value your health care, which the average value is $12,000, and you're making $50,000, you'll pay taxes on $62,000 instead of pay taxes on $50,000. Now, we'll be doing this for the first time in history. Now, let me tell you how this is going to happen. It's going to, once that occurs, it's going to cause your employers, it's estimated by studies, it's going to cause 20 million people employed today who now have health care to get dropped from their employer's health care policy. Because employers, it's going to make it more expensive for them. And the estimates are 20 million people will be dropped because it costs too much money for your business to continue to provide health care. Now, it's another way of saying what is the constant thing about this Republican ownership society. It's another way of saying you're on your own. You're on your own now. No, they don't deny this. They don't deny the two facts I've just stated. Here's what they said. Here is their response as to why, notwithstanding that, this is a good idea, Congresswoman. You forgot more about this than I know, but here's what they're saying. They're going to say, we're going to make it up to you all, and here's how we're going to do it. If you're a family, husband and wife, we're going to give you a $5,000 tax credit that their website says goes straight to the insurance company, but a $5,000 tax credit to let you go out and buy your own health care. Now look, let me ask you folks, the average employer-provided health care policy is estimated to be worth $12,000. Now tell me, how's that $5,000 that's going directly to the insurance companies, how's that going to help you find the other $7,000 to make up for the same health care policy you just lost? Ladies and gentlemen, that's my definition of a bridge to nowhere. It goes nowhere. But you know, Bill Nelson, when I first said this on the east coast of Florida about 3 weeks ago, I could tell even the Democrats in the room looked at me, that can't be right. I mean, they can't really. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. If I just walked out and you never heard it before and I said, John McCain's going to tax health care benefits, you'd say, well, we love you, Joe, and we're Democrats and we're for Barack, but, tone it down a little bit. But it literally is true. It's literally true. Now look, people are surprised when they hear this and it sinks in that John would do this. But let me tell you, you shouldn't be surprised. I've known John McCain for 33 years. John's a good, decent, and brave man. But let me tell you something. John McCain has a very, very consistent economic ideology and philosophy. And it always goes and starts with getting, quote, government out of the way, cut regulation, let the market sort things out. He believes it. As they like to say, the government's in the way, remove it. Now, if you think I'm kidding, let me read to you a part of an article that John McCain just wrote and submitted to a respectable magazine called Contingencies. It's a business magazine. And here is the quote from that article, and I'm quoting, "Opening up healthcare insurance market to more vigorous nationwide competition, as we have done over the last decade in banking, would provide more choices of innovative products and less burden by the worst excesses of state-based regulation." Now, that's literally what he believes. People have got to understand. Let me tell you what John thinks are excess regulations. The worst, I'm quoting him, the worst excesses of state regulations. The regulations in your state and mine and many others that vary slightly, but they all have the basic same feel. They insist that any health care plan provided has to cover mammographies. They insist that cancer screening has to be covered. Your states insist that vaccinations for children, maternity care cannot be viewed, being pregnant cannot be viewed as a pre-existing condition and denied health insurance. Hey, you're all joking, you're all kidding because y'all haven't had to go out and get your own self-insurance yet. But wait. That's what a lot of healthcare companies argue. They don't want to insure a pregnant woman. It's a pre-existing condition. Now look, they're the regulations that each of the states have imposed on these insurance companies. John believes they get in the way of competition. You heard him last night. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're not in the business of making sure our HMOs make money. We're in the business of making sure you're treated fairly when you pay for health care. Let me tell you something. Barack Obama and I will guarantee that your insurance company treats you fairly. And by the way, it's not just me who thinks this health care plan is cockamamie, the McCain plan. Even the business leaders, in whose name John wrote this plan, they don't love this plan either. They're worried that the private marketplace, quote, isn't ready, and that John's plan will hurt their workers. Here's what the president of the Business Roundtable, the most influential business group in the world, which associations of the leading CEOs said, and not traditionally the biggest Democratic fans. And I quote, here's what the chairman of the Roundtable said. One of the things we don't want to do is jeopardize 170 million Americans who get their health insurance through their employers. That wasn't coming from some Democratic outfit. That was coming from the Business Roundtable. So, John, take a look at your plan. Even your own guys ain't crazy about it. Look. Barack and I agree. We believe we need to modernize our healthcare system for the 21st century, reduce costs for families and businesses, and finally provide affordable, accessible healthcare for every American, just like the one federal employees Barack Obama, John McCain, Joe Biden have right now. Every single person should have that right. We're also, in order to get this economy going and create jobs, we're going to make college more affordable. So that when you go out and compete for that job and get it, you don't have to pay $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 before you can have one red cent go into your dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, Barack Obama and I, and both our wives, Barack Obama is a lawyer, his wife Michelle is the most incredible person I have met. This is one. I'm telling you. No malarkey. This is one incredible person. Talk about making it. She came out of the south side of Chicago, ended up with a Harvard law degree. This is a woman like my wife who has her doctorate degree, worked her way through school like Barack and I did. We know through loans and scholarships is the way we make it. But we believe that college should be affordable. We believe. In order to make that happen, we believe we should broaden our notion of national service in this country, getting millions of young Americans who will go out and serve not just in the military, but in our underserved communities, our schools, our senior centers. Ladies and gentlemen, think that if you serve the nation as we believe, the nation can afford to send you to college. And even in the midst of this financial crisis, we're going to pay for all those plans. And let me tell you how we're going to pay for them. Barack and I are going to insist that the economic rescue package, that if you, the American taxpayer, are financing the solution, you should be treated like an investor. You should get back every single penny, every dollar that is recovered in this economy. We're going to close offshore tax loopholes. I know you think we make these things up. There's an offshore tax loophole used by insurance companies that, in fact, allows them to avoid $100 billion in taxes they owe. When Sarah Palin said Joe Biden thinks it's patriotic to pay taxes, let me tell you what Joe Biden thinks. Joe Biden thinks it's unpatriotic to support allowing $100 billion in unpaid taxes to be taken offshore. That's what I think. That could reduce your taxes. Let's translate this, folks. That could reduce your taxes $100 billion if they paid their fair share. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to eliminate the $15 billion a year we're now giving to companies to take jobs overseas. And we will responsibly end this war in Iraq. And in the process, we'll stop spending $10 billion a month while the Iraqis have almost an $80 billion surplus. money that can and should be spent here in the United States of America. And at the end of the day, the critical point I want to make to you, at the end of the day, Barack and I don't measure the progress of this country by how many regulations we cut, how many American CEOs are doing. We measure progress in terms of dignity and respect for the middle class, the working class. Ladies and gentlemen, we measure respect in whether or not you have a job. Do you have the ability to pay for health care? Can you fill your gas tank? Can you heat your home? Are you able to send your kid to college? Or just simply whether you can look your kid in the eye and say, I promise you, honey, everything's going to be all right. That's how we measure respect. That's how we measure progress. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is, in the neighborhood I grew up in, like the neighborhoods I suspect many of you grew up in, we have a saying, and we mean it. A promise made is a promise kept. Sounds corny, but a promise made is a promise kept. Ladies and gentlemen, Barack Obama and I will keep our promise to the middle class. We'll keep our promise to end this war responsibly. Barack Obama will keep our promise that will change this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, my neighborhood was packed with mothers and fathers who told us, if you work hard, if you're honest, if you loved your country, there wasn't a single solitary thing you couldn't do. Well, folks, we believed it, and we did it. I'm running with Barack Obama because I believe we can do that again. And I believe with his leadership we will. My dad used to have an expression. My dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Champ, when you get knocked down, old buddy, get up. Just get up. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been a senator since I've been 29 years old, and I have never seen a time when more Americans have been knocked down. It's time for us together to get up. America's ready to get up. You're ready to get up. I'm ready. Barack Obama is ready. It is our time. It is America's time. It is Barack Obama's time to be President of the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you all very much.